Hi guys, it's Nat here. Hope you're all well. I am on for my design team project for Whichcraft Do You Do, and I want to have a bit of a play with their Dragonfly papers set 1. Now I know the lovely Kerry has been doing a number of projects with these on the Whichcraft Do You Do YouTube channel, so do check them out as well. It is linked down below. So what I have done is printed out. Now they come in a range of different colours, and they come in your portrait and your landscape format. So I have printed out these sort of vintage style colour ones and some darker purple ones as well. But as I said, there's different shades and different colours that you can have. So I might print out some other colours, not sure. Don't quite know what I'm doing yet. So I'll just print out a couple and have a bit of a play and see what I can come up with. I have here the portrait pages, and my printer does not print borderless, so I'm just cutting the borders off there. I don't mind that it doesn't print borderless, because if it did, it would probably be like crooked and I wouldn't get some of the print on the page anyway. So it sort of ensures that I've got the whole page printed. So once I've done that, I want to cut this piece into 3 separate strips. Because there's the 3 dragonflies, it works nicely just to cut it so that you've got a dragonfly on each piece. So I'm not measuring this, I'm just making sure I get the whole dragonfly on each piece. So they will be slightly different sizes. I did the same with the purple piece. Now I've got my scoreboard and I'm just scoring down so that I get the whole dragonfly on one side. And I'm making sure that they're not even so that one edge stands out from the other. So there's a bit of overhang on one side. That'll just help me slip my paper clips on because we're doing hidden paper clips. So yeah, not much measuring in this one, but that's the way I tend to like to work. So I found some of my purple material and I'm just putting one of my strips up against it to measure how much of the material that I want, and I want to rip it because I want the frayed edge. So I just want the frayed edge to hang out over the 4 sides of my digital there. So I repeat that process for each one of my strips. I did also find some cream fabric for my brown toned digitals and ripped that out in the same manner to fit those. So I work on 2 of these with you guys, but I ended up doing 6 of them. So I've got some purple ink there and I'm just using that to go around the edges of my purple papers. I do ink there in the centre as well, where the fold is. And then I ink on the inside there, but I realised I didn't need to do that. That's getting covered up by the fabric. So, oh well. So again, I ink this one, but I'm using, I think it's tea dye that I'm using for that, ink-wise. So there's the cream fabric that I found for my browner digitals. And I decide that I do want to ink that a little bit just around the edges that will be peeking out of our paper clips. I do it on the inside and the outside of the fabric. Just neaten up some of the strings that are hanging out. This is a half of a manila folder. It's just a really old wrinkled one that I have hanging around here. Just cut the one edge so that it's straight. And again, I'm not measuring much here, so I just put my papers up against it and sort of roughly measure the same size. I sort of want to cut it so it's a millimetre shorter either side, but we can always alter that a bit if we need in the future. So I just measure it up against my paper again just to see how the size goes. Now I want to fold that to fit inside my digital, so I'm just marking where the fold is on my digital and then using my ruler and bone folder to make a crease and fold it. And I do the same for my purple one. So when I printed out the digitals, I also printed one of each out on my transparency as well, and I fussy cut the dragonflies out. So I'm just putting glue down the centre and on part of the wings closer to the body so that the outside of the wings still lift up a little bit. I just like the way it looks because it's nice and shiny, makes a dragonfly stand out a bit more, so I'm sticking them on top of the dragonfly that's on the paper. And I did it with the purple kit as well. And the scraps that I have left from that I'll be able to use for other embellishments, so no waste. I keep all the scraps. And you can see again I'm just putting the glue on the part of the wings that's closer to the body. The glue is the Helmar's tacky glue and it dries clear so you don't see it underneath the transparency at all. So now I want to adhere the digital down to the fabric, and I'm using my Helmar fabric glue for that. And normally I'd worry a bit about bleed through and be a bit more careful with my glue, but it doesn't matter here because this will be folded over the folder piece for paper clips. So just make sure that I rub it down nicely, especially around the edges so it doesn't lift up too much. So next I just double check that the folder piece fits in there nicely and trim off any overhang that's sticking out past the fabric. And then I decide just to ink around the edges so that if we see those little bits, they're not so bright. And this is where I was meant to ink on the inside of the overhang of our paper clip because we will be seeing that when we take it off of our pages. So now I've got my crocodile, any hole punch will do, and I've just put that little hole, I've put two of them into the folded bit of that folder piece so that I can sink my paper clips down in them so they don't bulk out too much. It's another trick I learnt off of, I think it was Renee at Whichcraft Do You Do. So I've just ripped a bit of book page that I want to stick over the top of my paper clips. That will just hold them in place nicely. So I want that to hang over the edges of the paper clips in the bottom so that we get glue all around them to keep them in place. And I glue one side of that down. I also add glue to my paper clips to the top of them and around them just so they hold really well where they are. And I make sure I press this paper down well around the paper clips. It'll just help add a buffer and something for my fabric to stick to. And so when we put the top over, we're not going to be squishing our digital too much over the paper clips because we've got the fabric in this paper that's sort of buffering it a bit. Next I want to do a little bit of embellishing. So I'm cutting out the little label pieces and that and ticket pieces that are printed on the digital there on the other side from the Dragonfly. And I want to create little tuck spots with those. So I just add glue to the bottom and the left-hand side there so that we can tuck something in on the right-hand side and stick that down. Just allows us to add something extra to our paper clips. And I do the same with the other side of my purple one. And and I stick that down in the same manner by just adding the glue to the bottom and the left-hand side. I want to do this now because I want to sew around my toppers there before I stick them onto the paperclip part, and that way I can sew these on as well, just around the outside of them. I have some of these die cut flowers from a wildflower set from Global Land. And I had some left over, so I thought it'd be great to put these on as well for some more decoration. I just inked them with a bit of purple ink. And I stick it down mainly on the left-hand side there, and I left the top part of the die cut unstuck so that when we slip something in the pocket, it slips down behind that. So I have now sewed around the outside of my fabric cover there, and I want to add it to the paperclip part. So I just add glue all over the long part of the paperclip folder, and then I adhere the topper, and I just check on the inside that it fits nicely before I press it all down. I use straight stitch and a few little zigzag patches for my stitching around the outside. So now I want to adhere it to the other side, so I just add glue everywhere and down the spine so it holds nicely. And that is a paperclip base mostly done now. So I want to do the same with my other one. So just check that it all fits nicely with no overhang before I stick it down. Using my fabric glue for this. So just check that it's in there where I want it. Make sure the outsides are stuck really well. And then do the other side. Now for just a little bit more embellishment, I have I think they're the King's Head stamps, and I find some colours that I think will complement nicely. I've also got a few of their little labels from Whichcraft Do You Do, from their bits and pieces sets. Won't tell you which one, you'll hear why after. They make beautiful embellishments. I love all the bits and pieces sets because you can use all the different parts on all the different kits. So interchangeable, all the printables that they have. So I'm just ripping that label. Sometimes I think they look better sort of ripped, shortened, and just parts of them. Same with this one, I decided I just want mainly the numbers because the colours go really well. And as it has some black border on it, if I just use my black Soot Distress ink, it creates that black border on the ripped edge, so you don't notice that it's been ripped as much. So now I want to make a few little journal cards to put into the tuck spots that we've created, and I decided that I'd like to stamp on these. So I grab out some of my mushroom stamps and fairy stamps for these. So I just made these journal cards out of the landscape pages that I printed out. So time to do a recap now. So I've finished stamping all of my little journal spots that I've made for these. As you can see, I did make a few extras. So I thought we'll have a look at them while I put the journal spots away. So I will put a link to the fairy stamps and the wildflower dies that I used for these down below in case you're interested as well. But otherwise it was Tim Holt's stamps for the mushrooms. Okay, now let's get started. So this journal card goes in this little tuck spot here. So that at least there's a little bit of journaling on these. I was looking at them before and thinking, I mean, they're paper clips, but what do you actually do with them? But yes, I did add little journaling spots to them. In hindsight, which as you know is 2020, these would have made awesome little booklet covers. They would have been beautiful. So I might have to print out some of the other colours and make some little booklets because they will look great in some journals. So there is a paper clip finished, that one. So of course you would grab a page, possibly a thicker page than this, so that it holds its form. And because these are a little bit heavy, but and then they'd slip on the page just like that. So when you turn your page, you've got both sides. But you'd want like a cardstock page pretty well for these, thicker sort of paper. Then getting them off. There. So that's the first one. So with this one, we have 2 tuck spots. So I've got this big one here, which that fits into, and then at the back we've got this little one up here. So I embellished with my postage stamps and some of the little labels from Whichcraft Do You Do. Now they tend to come from the bits and pieces kits, and I'd tell you exactly which one, except I had this happen last night. So I have a job to do sometime at sorting that all out, because I had it neatly sorted with labels so I knew which kits they came from, and they were colour coded and everything. So yeah, so I'll just say they come from the bits and pieces kits. So that's that one. Now this one is a similar one. So beautiful fairies on there. Thought the fairy would go nice with the purple. Tiny little fairy on that one, which slips under there. That one goes in there. I've got a couple of my stamps that still have the paper on the back because I really like the way they were and the colours, so that went onto there. I'll put some more of the fabric underneath that label. And of course the Dragonfly has the transparency over the top, which makes it stand out, which is nice. This one appears to have some glue on it as well, but you don't notice depending on which way you put it in the light. Don't know why I've always got to point out my mistakes. You may not see them if I don't, but yeah, I have a habit of doing that. This one is a tuck spot in there. So you could embellish these a lot more, but I really like the simple embellishment because the papers themselves have a lot of your labels and that on them. So I just doubled some of them over for the tuck spots, which I tend to do a lot of. That's the back of that one. And then that's, because these were the ones that we did together. That's a bit of a double stamp too, because it moved a bit in my stamp platform, but the rest turned out quite nicely. And that's the last one. I might grab this paper, might be a bit easier to use. I'll stick, this one would go on like that. And that's the back. And then it pulls off like that. So that was so much fun. Absolutely love that kit. Just pretty, pretty colours. All of their kits have so many pretty colours, and it's not until I print them out and get putting other things on them that I realise just how beautiful they are and how easy to work with they are. And I found the A4 pages especially just, if you cut them into the 3 pieces, you get a dragonfly and some of the other beautiful bits and pieces. It works really well, so you can make 3 of your huge paper clips, or 3 little booklets for your journals, or just print out the page 2 to a page or something like that, and you can make smaller ones, which I might try in the future for some smaller paper clips. So that was so much fun. So there is a code which is NAT 2024, and that is for 25% off of any digital product at Whichcraft Do You Do. So make sure you put that in upon checkout for your digitals. Also, the other design team members are linked down below if you want to see what they've been making. Massive thank you to the lovely ladies at Whichcraft Do You Do for the awesome kits. Had so much fun making these. I've got so much beautiful ephemera now to put in future journals through doing all of these tutorials, so great fun. I think that's all I've got to say. I did forget to say that this project was heavily inspired by Kerry's Altered Postcard series, where she did the hidden paper clips, which I will link that individual video down below for you. So do be good, take care. All the links to the kit and everything are down below, and I will see you again soon.